Most American households with 3 children consider the morning routine a logistical challenge. In an Amish home with 10 children, the morning routine begins before 4 o'clock, involves livestock, fire, and a full hot meal from scratch, and is considered ordinary. This is what that day actually looks like. 4 a.m. How it starts. The father rises first. There is no alarm. The body learns the hour after enough years of keeping it. He dresses in the dark, goes to the barn, and begins. The mother rises minutes later. She does not need to wake the oldest children. The 2 oldest girls, 13 and 15, are already moving. In a household with 10 children, the oldest ones have absorbed the rhythm so completely that the morning starts itself. Morning chores, the distribution of morning chores in a 10-child Amish household is not posted on a refrigerator. It is understood, learned over years of repetition until each child knows their assignment without being told. The 2 oldest boys, 12 and 14, go to the barn with their father. They milk, feed, and water the livestock while he handles the heavier work. The oldest girls start the fire in the kitchen stove and begin breakfast preparation. The middle children, ages 7 through 10, gather eggs, feed the chickens, and carry wood. The youngest, who can walk, a 4-year-old, carries kindling under the supervision of an older sibling. The 2 youngest, a 2-year-old and an infant, are the only ones with no assignment. Everyone else contributes something real before the sun is fully up. Breakfast for 12. By 6:30, the kitchen is warm and the smell of food has reached every corner of the house. An Amish breakfast for 12 is not a small production. There are eggs scrambled in a cast-iron pan large enough to hold 2 dozen at once. There is bacon or sausage cured from last autumn's butchering, stored in the cellar and brought up the night before. There is bread baked yesterday, sliced thick. There is oatmeal on the back of the stove for the youngest children. There is coffee for the adults and older teenagers, and fresh milk poured from the morning milking for everyone else. The family gathers at a table long enough to seat all 12, and before anyone touches food, the father leads a silent prayer. Every head bows. The house for 30 seconds is completely quiet. Then the meal begins, and it is not quiet again for some time. The school departure. At 7:45, the older children leave for school. In most Amish communities, this means walking sometimes a mile, sometimes 2, to a one-room schoolhouse run by a young Amish woman who may be only 18 or 19 herself. 6 of the 10 children go. The 4 youngest stay home. The mother stands at the door and watches them go, the older ones carrying lunch pails and leading the younger school-age ones by the hand down the road. And then she turns back to a house that still contains 4 children, a kitchen full of dishes, laundry that needs starting, and a full day of work that has not yet properly begun. The father has returned to the fields or the workshop by this point. The household is now hers to run until midday, and she runs it without a dishwasher, a washing machine, a phone, or any of the tools that modern households treat as basic necessities. The mother's long morning. What she manages between 8 in the morning and noon with 4 children underfoot, a toddler, a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, and an infant, is something that has no modern equivalent. She washes the breakfast dishes by hand in water heated on the stove. She starts the laundry, which in an old-order Amish home means a wringer washer powered by an air compressor or a hand-operated tub, and 12 people's worth of clothing is a full day's work by itself. She manages the toddler, who has wandered toward the wood stove twice before 9 o'clock. She nurses the infant while supervising the 4-year-old's assigned task of sweeping the kitchen floor, which is being done with great enthusiasm and very little technique. She begins planning the midday meal, which in an Amish household is a full hot meal equal in size and effort to supper, because the father and any older children working on the property will come in from the fields hungry at noon and will need to be fed before returning to work. She does all of this simultaneously, without a break, without setting the infant down for more than a few minutes at a time, and without apparent distress, because this is simply what the morning is. Midday, the second meal. At noon, the household reconvenes. The father comes in from the field or workshop, Older children who are working on the property rather than attending school, teenagers whose schooling has ended at 8th grade, come in with him. The mother sets the table again. The midday meal in an Amish home is not a sandwich eaten standing at the counter. It is soup made from yesterday's chicken bones and garden vegetables. It is bread again and butter churned earlier in the week. It is potatoes from the cellar, boiled or mashed, served in a bowl large enough for everyone to take from. The four youngest children who have been home all morning are glad for the company. The father eats without rushing. There is brief conversation, practical things, what the afternoon requires, how the field is progressing, what needs to be brought up from the cellar for supper. When the meal is done, the father returns to work. The mother clears the table, washes the dishes again, and the afternoon begins. Afternoon work by age. The afternoon distributes its labor as carefully as the morning did. The father and older teenage boys are at the most physically demanding work field: labor, construction, fence repair, whatever the farm requires. The teenage girls who are home from school assist the mother with the afternoon's household tasks. More laundry to be hung or brought in, bread to be started for tomorrow, vegetables to be prepared from the garden. The middle children, home by 3:30, are assigned their afternoon chores immediately upon arrival. There is no transition period, no snack in front of a screen, no decompression time built into the schedule. An 8-year-old in an Amish household goes from the schoolhouse walk directly to the woodpile, the chicken coop, or the garden, depending on what the season requires. A 10-year-old girl begins helping in the kitchen. A 12-year-old boy joins his father or older brothers at whatever they are building or fixing. The progression from small task to large task happens so gradually across childhood that by the time an Amish child is a teenager, they are doing adult work competently and without instruction. When all 10 come home, the hour between 3:30 and 4:30, when the school children return and all 10 are under one roof again, is the loudest hour of the day. 6 children coming through a door, setting down lunch pails, greeting younger siblings, reporting something from school, asking about supper. The volume of it is considerable. The mother absorbs this without slowing down. She has been managing a household since 4 in the morning, and the return of 6 more children is not a disruption to her day, but simply its next chapter. Afternoon chores are assigned and begun with a speed that would surprise anyone observing it for the first time. There is no negotiation, no argument about who does what. The assignments are known. The middle children go to the barn for the second round of animal care. The older girls move into the kitchen. The younger school-aged children are given smaller tasks, setting the table, carrying things, keeping the 2-year-old occupied while the mother focuses on supper. The house hums with the particular productive noise of people who all know what they are doing and why. Supper and the evening table. Supper in a 10-child Amish household is the largest meal of the day and the longest gathering. The mother has been preparing it in stages since the midday dishes were cleared. A pot of beans has been on the back of the stove since afternoon. There is roasted meat, chicken, or pork from the family's own animals. There are vegetables from the garden, canned goods opened from the cellar shelves, more bread, more butter, more milk, 12 plates, 12 sets of hands folded for the silent prayer the father leads before anyone lifts a fork. The conversation at supper is the most sustained of the day. The father asks each of the older children about their work. The mother listens while managing the needs of the youngest ones. The teenagers speak when spoken to, and the younger children eat with varying degrees of tidiness. The meal lasts 45 minutes to an hour. No one leaves the table early without permission. No one brings anything to the table that would distract from the meal itself. When it is finished, the older children clear without being asked. The dishes are washed by the teenage girls, while the mother puts the youngest children through their evening routines. The kitchen is clean before 8 o'clock. Bedtime for 10. Bedtime in a 10-child Amish household is not a single event. It is a procession, moving from youngest to oldest over the course of an hour. The toddler and the infant go down first, the mother nursing or rocking in the particular quiet of a child going under. The 4 and 5-year-olds are next washed, dressed in nightclothes, put into the bed they share with a sibling. The middle children follow, And then the older ones, who may have a brief period of quiet reading by lamplight before the father indicates it is time. Before the youngest go to sleep and after the older ones are in their rooms, the father reads from the Bible. The passage is short, a few verses, selected without announcement. There is a prayer, spoken aloud by the father, and the children's voices join for certain phrases, the way voices join something they have heard enough times to know by heart. By 8:30, in most seasons, the house is quiet. All 10 children are in their beds. The parents sit together for a short time in the kitchen, and then they too go to bed, because 4 o'clock comes without warning and the morning does not wait. After the house goes quiet, the silence that settles over an Amish home after 10 children are asleep is a particular kind of silence earned, complete and brief. The mother knows it will not last the full night. The infant will wake at some point in the dark hours, and she will rise without fully waking, nurse and resettle, and return to bed carrying the particular half-consciousness of a woman whose sleep has been interrupted by children for 15 years without pause. The father sits at the kitchen table for a short while, sometimes reading, sometimes simply sitting in the quiet that his household almost never provides during waking hours. They speak to each other in low voices about what tomorrow requires, which child needs something for school, whether the weather will hold for the field work planned, what needs to come up from the cellar in the morning. These conversations are practical and short. Neither of them has the energy for anything else by this hour. What passes between them in the quiet is less about words than about the specific companionship of two people who have built something large together and know, without saying it, that tomorrow they will get up and build it again. A household with 10 children and no electricity, no running water in some districts, no car, no phone, and no hired help should not, by any modern calculation, function smoothly. It should be overwhelmed, it should be chaotic, exhausted, and constantly behind. It is none of those things. Not because Amish families are exceptional people, though they are hardworking in ways that are genuinely remarkable, but because the system they live inside was designed specifically for this, for large families, managing large amounts of physical work with limited tools and maximum cooperation. Every child in that house has a role. The 4-year-old carrying kindling is not doing it to build character, though it does. She is doing it because the fire needs starting, and she is the one available to carry it. That distinction matters. A child who contributes because the household genuinely needs them develops something different than a child who is assigned tasks as an educational exercise. One knows they are necessary, the other is learning a lesson. The mother in this household will have worked 16 hours by the time the last child is asleep. The father will have worked comparable hours. Neither of them will describe this as hardship because it is not experienced as hardship. It is experienced as a life full, purposeful, loud with children, grounded in faith, and held together by the understanding that every person inside those walls is essential to what the day requires. That, more than anything else, is what the outside world tends to miss when it looks at an Amish family and sees simplicity. What it is actually looking at is one of the most complex and efficient household systems ever developed, running perfectly every single day, powered entirely by the people who live inside it.